Welcome, everyone, back to another episode of Let's Talk Broncos. Happy Friday to y'all. I'm Bree Maestis, and I'm here with Zach Seegers and Joey Richards, and we're completing out quite a hectic week. We're happy to have you along with us, and we're ready to talk all things Broncos. But first, how are you gentlemen doing today?
I'm doing good. Bree and I went to Torchy's Tacos right before the pod, which was an amazing decision. I think it's what really got me in a good mood today.
It was being honest with you. It was the queso.
It was the queso. Bree spilt the beer all over the chips.
I did.
It was a tragic event. It really was.
It was. I got a whole 4 ounces out of that beer. So
yeah, but other than that, like the vibes right now are awesome.
They're immaculate. Bree keeps talking about choking on Diablo sauce, and it's impossible for me to not make a joke about demon ejaculate.
This is off to a restaurant.
Let's go. Let's ride.
But I'm doing great. Having a good show. And excited for the weekend. Last weekend without Broncos football until hopefully February.
Yeah, exactly.
That is we have a bye week, thankfully. You're so proud of yourself.
I'm very proud of myself.
Congratulations and welcome, everyone. You can find all of our previous episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And you can find all of Joey's excellent work on MileHighSports.com. I don't know where you're going to read Zach's stuff, but, at this point, he's earned it. We need to talk, I think.
At the top of your homepage.
Yep.
Just right at the top. Click Broncos. Zach's stories are usually right up there at the top. I want to remind anyone watching, if you're over on Twitter, if you want to interact with the show, you got to hop on over to the YouTube stream. We'll interact with you over there. Guys, tonight I want to talk to you, since we don't have a game coming up, I want to cover what do you guys think are the biggest storylines heading into the 2022 season? And I think there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of interesting things that we want to kind of get to. But I think the first and foremost, I know there's probably going to be a little bit of an argument here, is Evero's defense replacing Fangio and kind of how he's really replacing an entire scheme, an entire coaching mantra, and how you guys feel about that. And since you threw that out, Zach, I want you to go first.
Yeah. And what we're talking about is, as you just said, interesting storylines. And I think, hopefully it ends up good or bad. I think this is going to be one of the most fascinating storylines to watch because I think there's multiple components to it. I really think team culture is valuable, 100%. And I think we are seeing we were talking about the vibes for this show. The vibes are immaculate in here. The vibes are immaculate in Dove Valley right now. And they haven't been probably since Gary Kubiak was the head coach. And I do think that's going to have an impact. On the other hand, something a little more important than vibes is Vic Fangio being the forefather of the way every defense is currently going. I think it's going to be an interesting balance. I do think this team is going to be healthier. I think it might be more talented in some regards too, primarily in terms of rushing the passer. But yeah, I feel pretty good about it all.
Okay.
I think it'll be interesting at the very least.
I am going to be the guy. I've always been the guy, the Vic Fangio
Yeah, you've
guy
always been. This isn't a heel turn.
No, it's not at all. I've always been the Vic Fangio guy.
Sure.
So I'm really interested in asking this question to you.
Wade Phillips famously get mad in the chat.
In my favorite, it was a personal favorite. Okay, it was had nothing to do which defense is better.
Wait, so Joey, which defense do you think is better?
The Broncos Super Bowl defense.
Oh shoot! Which defensive philosophy do you think is better?
I think that the Vic Fangio philosophy is better.
Get in his replies.
As does the NFL.
You can find
But anyways,
at JR Giraffes on Twitter.
You just double down on it. I love how you double down on it.
Anyways, it's hard for me to imagine a situation where I could see the defense being as good or better, but it's hard for me to imagine the reason being because it's Evero over Fangio.
I think I think the team was sick of Fangio last year.
I think
that's a factor.
Sick of Fangio.
So do you think? I don't want to go through.
Do you think Urban?
I
think team culture 100% matters, and I think you can see that Urban Meyer in Jacksonville, or I'm trying to think of other really toxic ones recently. Hugh Jackson in Cleveland. I think
my
had a pretty
thing is
rough culture.
that's all great.
And then compare it to Dan Campbell in Detroit or Brian Flores early years in Miami.
No, don't get me wrong. That's all great candy and all that, right? But I don't think we can sit here and
So
argue.
He's like,
I don't think that we can argue that the Broncos defense didn't outperform some of their huge gaping
but how much was that
Issues
Fangio,
on
or
that
how much was
defense.
that the defensive
Like-
And I don't know
roster
if they
taking it
necessarily,
upon
like,
themselves?
the
outperform-
Broncos just traded one of their edge rushers that started almost all of last year for a 7th round pick. The other one, Jonathan Cooper, just barely made the roster. If you want to go through the defensive line, we can do that. If you want to go look through the linebackers, we can do that. Like, I don't think there was the necessary pieces there. The same secondary is returning, but the Broncos defense this year is going to be better than it was last year, talent-wise. And it would shock me to see like the defense just skyrocket to the number 1 in the league, or like amazing just because Fangio's gone now. I think that if we see an improvement, it's going to be because the defensive talent is better. I don't think it's because Fangio's gone. For the reasons I said, I think they outperformed their talent.
And I think that's fair. I think overall, this is going to be a better defense this year.
That's fine, like talent-wise, I think.
But I also
I think
you're-
talent's a part of it. But
It's a massive part.
sorry, Bree.
No, I wasn't trying to cut you off. I just
All
feel
right.
very strongly that due to some of the front runners and the captains of the defense themselves having such an issue with the previous coach's mentality and the way that they set up the defense and the lack thereof of plans, that you're going to want to take a little bit of stock into that, into how much better those players in general are going to perform under Evero's defense.
I have a question. So why is everyone so hyped up about Evero running the Fangio defense? And then also, let's keep an
Continuity.
emphasis.
Because it's continuity. So let's get into that, because I
Let's
think
keep-
that's an important piece
Wait,
here.
1 second,
You're not changing the Fangio stuff.
1 second.
You're not changing the Fangio stuff. You're just the scheme stuff that we all like. You're changing the person, which was the issue. I think that's the argument for Evero.
So why do we call it the Fangio defense? Let's all just evaluate this.
I
real
know, because
quick.
he originated, but really, if you want to
Like-
if we really want to get nitty gritty, what's more the rage right now is the Staley adaptation of it, and that's closer to what Evero will be installing.
Okay, where did Staley come from?
Fangio, but I'm
Let's
saying
just,
like
what are
what-
we doing here?
but the articles about it are calling it the Staleyfication of the NFL, not the Fangiofication of the NFL. And because Fangio was a little more rigid, this is a little more modern. This does have a few tweaks here and there.
Man, I don't think the Fangio defense was very rigid at all. I thought we saw adjustments and different things
Rigid in
pop
terms
up
of pressures.
every single
In terms
year.
of pressures, I think.
Okay, that's fine.
Can
But
we
I also
take-
saw like I don't know.
I think
don't
his
know. Take
pressure
it
package
away.
is fairly tame, and that'll be the big difference with Evero. I think you did kind of outline the argument for Evero, though. The defense isn't changing. I think what you're losing with Fangio is you might not be one step ahead of things. Like, you might not see the Bears-Rams performance where it was like, oh, shoot, this is how we stop the Rams offense. And that's valuable, 100%. But the general scheme that they're implementing isn't changing. I think the only change will be it gets a little more aggressive. What you are changing is the culture and the person running it. And you look at the culture of the Broncos last year, very problematic. And I think you look at the person running it, the players were listening to Ed Donatel more than Vic Fangio at the end.
Oh, yeah, I mean, one was the defensive coordinator, but let's just
One
go-
didn't lose the locker
let's just
room.
go through
Most
this.
of that locker room
Let's
was
just go
lost.
through this. Let's just go through this. I mean, man, running a defense is cool. Like, that's awesome. But at the same time, man, I've seen all these coaches' systems come from somebody that the offense is supposed to be great no matter what. Like, oh, this guy's offense originates from here. This guy's defense originates from here. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to call the plays. They're going to have to call them correctly. Just because he's running the same system doesn't mean that he's going to be a good play caller. And that would be my
But I
pushback
think-
there. And I don't think we've seen a lot. And I'm not completely doubting Evero. He could be a good defensive coordinator. But I just think that we're talking about Vic Fangio, where I think that if he were to get a defensive coordinator job right now, he would probably be top 2 or 3 in the entire NFL.
And I think he is a good defensive coordinator,
So-
but last year he wasn't for the Broncos. He was the head coach, and
That's fine.
he was in the middle of a team revolt.
But we're talking about Evero, who's a defensive coordinator, replacing Vic Fangio.
I think
So I'm
you're-
looking at
I
through
do, but I
defensive
think
glasses.
but my point being, I think Vic Fangio in a defensive coordinator role is a better coach than Vic Fangio in a head coaching role. Even though he's still running the defense, I think you're getting more out of him. And let's go just to Vic, what was a very common talking point throughout Vic Fangio's first season. him coaching on the sidelines versus up in the booth. He prefers to coach from the booth when he's a defensive coordinator.
But
He never did that until he was a head coach.
What about the idea
And
that
his Broncos defense weren't as elite as the 49ers or Bears.
what about the
wonder-
idea or the concept that Evero is so good as a coach in general that you could see him only being the Broncos defensive coordinator for a year before taking a head coaching job, which would be point proven his ability to kind of run teams and run defenses.
100%. And I guess that's the thing for me. The odds of Ejiro Evero, while not impossible, of him being one, the defensive mind Vic Fangio is, and two, the defensive play caller that Vic Fangio is, are slim.
Very slim.
However, I think he can still be a very good defensive coordinator. I'm confident he
fine.
will be when you look at his pedigree. And I think, would I rather have a great defensive mind with abhorrent chemistry and an open locker room revolt, or would I have a really good defensive coordinator whose players adore him and want to play their ass off for him every down?
That's a lot of okay. I'm going to say this, and then I feel like
Yes, no, I think we had to go.
I'll make that decision.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think you kind of nailed what my point was at the end there, where it's just like a lot of it's just like you made the point about the 49ers or Bears. Those teams were clearly, and I don't even think we can make the argument that the Broncos defense last year was as talented as those teams. I don't think that we could make that argument. The Vic Fangio being in the booth versus the sideline things, the Broncos defense, no one complained about the defense when Vic Fangio was down here. The talking point was always the offense. And while Evero is taking it, it's a big leap of faith to say he's going to be one of the better defensive coordinators in the league without really seeing it yet. It's kind of like a rookie, and I'm not ready to just make that bold proclaim that he's going to be good, because we've seen so many coaches come in and just not be.
He might not be. I think his pedigree, you could not ask for a better pedigree.
I agree.
And that's my thing. I feel confident in it. Yeah.
I don't see. I'm the same way with rookies. I'm a little more pessimistic when it comes to rookies. I've seen so many that I've liked burn out.
That's fair.
And I think coaches are the same way. I look at first year coaches the exact same way.
That's fair. I do think we should move on, though, because there's another, and then it is still a defensive position that we need to cover. And maybe
it's an
can
important
tie
part of
into
this
it.
one.
It is an important part of it. We'll move over to the edge rusher X factor. Joey, I'm going to throw this one over to you so you can, if you want to, continue a thought you were having.
Yeah, this position group is so interesting to me.
Biggest X factor for the Broncos this season.
I totally agree. It is massive. I don't want to go back to the Vic Fangio point, but I could right now. Anyways,
if the Broncos are in the Super Bowl, it's because their edge rushers are playing really, really well this season. If they miss the playoffs, I would bet big money it's because their edge rush was non-existent for one reason or another for much of the season. I
totally agree with that. That's a great call, Zach. I actually totally agree with that. You should tweet that. That's a really good tweet. It's just like, it feels like the floor versus the ceiling is so far apart. And I say that because, I mean, I'm not going to argue with the talent the Broncos have in that edge group. I'm not. The edge group is extremely talented. Bradley Chubb, we all know the talent he was. We saw it his rookie season. Randy Gregory, awesome talent. We all know about Randy Gregory's talent. It's the reason why he got this contract this year. It's the reason the Cowboys wanted to keep him so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then Baron Browning, we've seen it now in the preseason. We're yet to see it in the beginning, but we saw the talent in the preseason. The guy looks a lot more polished than we all thought. And another addition they had, second round pick, Nick Benito, pick 64, premium position, premium pick that they spent on Nick Benito. So he's supposed to come in and be a designated pass rusher. Now, while I'm acknowledging all the talent across the board of all those guys, I think that the floor is just as severe. I mean, I could go one by one again. Bradley Chubb, injury history. Randy Gregory, not played a lot of games, injury history there. Baron Browning, first year at a new position, like completely green to it, right? And then Nick Benito, rookie. It's
completely unproven.
Yeah, it's completely unproven. So they could, I mean, it's right. Here's the floor, here's the ceiling, and it could fall anywhere in between. It's so many different factors could play a part.
I fully agree. It reminds me a lot of the wide receiver room, honestly, where
Yeah.
I'm like, I think the difference with the wide receiver room is you have Cortland Sutton, though. To be fair, even he has some questions based on what we saw a season ago. But just in the sense that like it's a lot of unknowns, and I could see all of them going really well. I see a world where KJ Hamler's awesome this year, and Jerry Jeudy finally breaks out and looks like a top 15 pick, and Montrell Washington's a real contributor on offense, and Jalen Virgil has maybe not Philip Lindsay level, but just like a really awesome undrafted rookie season that is a kind of national story, like feel good storyline. And I could see the Tyree Cleveland being the special teams ace he was hyped up to be, and maybe having a few catches here or there too. Like, I think that reality totally exists. I also think a reality exists where Jerry Jeudy looks like last year's Jerry Jeudy. It's just not coming together. KJ Hamler is struggling to stay on the field. Jalen Virgil is an undrafted rookie. Montrell Washington isn't ready for a serious offensive role. And Cortland Sutton isn't fully back to 2019 Cortland Sutton. Like, I think, and the edge room is the exact same way. And so what I would caution people with, because it's a human tendency, logical fallacy, to see the potential upside and the potential downside and lean towards the potential upside, especially when it's something you want to have happen.
Right.
And I think it's important to remember that, like, for every single one of these that goes well, Bradley Chubb playing 17 fully healthy games. One might go bad. Randy Gregory misses half the season with injury. Or maybe Baron Browning is a real liability in the run game, and you can only play him in obvious passing situations. And it's the same case with Benito. And now it's like, okay, I guess we're taking Gregory and Chubb off the field on third downs, but we still think they're our best pass rushers, so we don't want to do that often. And the whole thing just becomes, I don't know. Some of those are going to work out great. Some of them are not.
Can we talk about the obvious
if all of them
one,
work
though?
out great, it would be very surprising.
We got to talk about the obvious one that seems to be working out much better than anticipated. Broncos country was entirely hesitant about Baron Browning switching positions there.
And rightfully so.
I get
Yeah.
rightfully so, but it
Yeah.
seemed to have worked out pretty decently for him. And he's not only meeting expectations, he's exceeding expectations. Does that carry into the regular season? What do you need to see out of that to not feel an ounce of maybe regret from that hesitation?
Yeah, no, I think the Baron Browning stuff is awesome. I really do. I think we have to see it in the regular season, going up against the ones all the time. He had most of his production against 2s and 3s.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's expected. He should have most of his production against 2s and 3s because they're 2s and 3s.
Sure.
But I think, like, we still have to see it. It's almost like, I'm going to be the Drew Lock guy. It's almost like he's a rookie still. He's switching to
freaking strays.
He's going to be switching positions, and it's his first year doing it. Now, I will say I was really impressed with what I saw.
New coordinator.
Yeah, exactly.
COVID off season.
I mean, he was injured through training camp last year. There's a lot of, I mean, get the excuses ready. But I think
just give
that
Browning a fair shot.
Something that I want to point out, something that he does that Drew Lock really didn't, is, man,
be good at football.
He learns on the fly. How
Adaptable.
Yes, I mean, my gosh, right?
He improves.
All those reasons you said,
I can't.
he got better. It's easy to forget that Baron Browning last year missed all of training camp, almost all of training camp.
Yeah.
He didn't play in the preseason. He didn't start until, I forget which week it was, but it wasn't until we started the season. And I was ready to write Baron Browning's rookie season off, because usually, like, it's the same way with Dulcich now. I don't think
on this podcast back when it was What's Talk Broncos, back when it was What's on Draft. I remember Baron Browning was getting ready to start his first game, and you were like, have your expectations low. This guy hasn't had any practice. It was kind of like a Dulcich situation where he was missing a ton of practice. And like we're all saying with Dulcich now, like, put your expectations low. I think it was the same thing then.
Oh, I'm the opposite, right? Expectations are here.
I could see your face loading up to say something. You're like smiling, getting ready to say.
And I was all getting prepared.
I could tell without even looking at her because I heard the dial-up tones.
Yeah, exactly.
Was that a reference to my age?
No, I was just like, I don't know, smoke coming out of your ears.
It was like, starting to
just working hard.
Yeah. You made me ugly laughing at the mic. And for that, we're fighting.
Like we said, the vibes are immaculate this show. This was a fun one.
We're having a good time. Great note for the end of the week. And is
This
that
time she's crying, laughing.
the tears are from joy.
What the hell?
Zach had
She became a puppet.
no, it was supposed to be like Ralphie from the Simpsons when he
Oh, I
says
like
I'm in
it.
danger.
I like it.
Honestly, I just became really sing-songy. I swear we're all in relatively good health and mental states right now, but it's just funny. Zach, you had touched on this earlier about KJ Hamler and Jerry Jeudy. I think that's probably the next most important storyline for the 2022 season. Obviously, Jerry Jeudy has to prove himself this year, and KJ Hamler is coming back from an injury and kind of a tumultuous offseason with his mental health. And I think both players are showing striking parallels in what they need to do this year in order to return to form. I think that is not being talked enough about, both separately, but together as a duo and a tandem, as both of them will see probably extra targets this season due to the Tim Patrick injury. So I'm excited to see how both of them step into themselves and kind of return to the players that we hope that they would be. I think we talked a little bit about this off camera, but obviously drafted the same year. You're going to want to kind of compare these two. I challenge you not to, but use them as individuals, where KJ Hamler, that speedster, can do a lot of what Jerry Jeudy can do, but obviously you're going to want to see different things out of him. And then Jerry Jeudy, for being drafted as high as he was and not showing I guess living up to that expectation yet, is this the year that he does it with the play from Russell Wilson? You've got an elite quarterback back there. There's no excuses this time, and I hope both of them can stay healthy, which is something of a concern that we've had in the past. I'm going to throw it to you guys. Why do you think this is a storyline to watch? And it's probably one of the most pivotal for both players.
Sorry, Joey. For me, I think it's just I think there are some comparisons again. There are some comparisons between them. And I agree. We should view them as individuals. How they have gotten to where they are now are very, very different. But with that said, they are very, very talented receivers that could be like game-changing players for the Denver Broncos, game-breaking players for their opponents. And they've been very disappointing through their first two seasons, and the production straight up hasn't been there for one reason or another. Through two seasons, KJ Hamler has, I think, 43 receptions. And that's as, I think it's actually like, no, it's in the 30s. And that's as a top 40 pick.
Right.
So I don't know. I think there's so much talent there with them. They've had the excuses in the past. I'm glad you said that. I think that is such an apt point with both of them. And now there's none left. You're in year 3. You see a lot of the receivers from the draft class before them signing extensions this past offseason. If they tear it up this season, normally, now I think because of, their early start to their career, they won't be looking at extensions, but normally they'd be having contract extension talks next offseason. Right. They still might if they look good enough, because the Broncos probably won't want to, or at least Hamler might, because the Broncos don't want to risk him on the open market if he plays well. But so it's just so pivotal to me, because I think if Jerry Jeudy is really disappointing this year, let's say it's not injury or whatever, and we keep hearing whatever weird whispers and smoke about, work ethic or whatever else we've heard during the Drew Lock era,
25% of work ethic or whatever it was.
Or 25% of the snap count. Yeah. If we keep hearing stuff like that, I don't know. That, to me, if you're Coach Hackett and George Payton next offseason, like, I don't think you can have Jerry Jeudy as a major part of your receiving plans anymore, because it's just like you're out of excuses at this point. Right. If KJ Hamler, and I hate to say it, but like if he has another injury-riddled season and Montreal Washington looks good as a rookie, it changes his lot in the NFL a ton. Right. So I just think both these players, we talked about how the edge rushers could put this team in the Super Bowl or out of the playoffs. These players are looking at massive extension, and we saw what wide receivers are getting paid now, or like maybe being deep end depth guys a season from now.
It's really interesting. It is make or break season for Jerry Jeudy. I don't think it is so far for KJ Hamler, just because he is coming off that injury. I personally, I mean, I'm not expecting a big season from KJ Hamler. I think how the Broncos laid out we're cutting Kendall Hinton, we're cutting Seth Williams, we're cutting who am I forgetting there?
Brandon Johnson.
They brought him back on IR or whatever. But same thing,
Darius Shepherd.
Darius Shepherd, some other guys. But it's a big leap of faith into KJ Hamler right there. It really is.
But I want the storyline at the end of the year to be, oh my, KJ Hamler, there was doubts. There were all these doubts. There were all these like trepidation of like whether or not he was going to. And now there's no cause for concern there. Like that is my absolute hope for his season.
Oh, totally. I mean, that's a great story, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone wants that
100%.
story. It would be awesome. It's just like, man, it's usually after a big injury like that, it's the year removed from it, is when you really start to see him come into true form.
Mhm.
And I'm just going to bet on history and say it's the same thing. Now, KJ Hamler could completely prove me wrong, and I hope he proves me wrong because I love KJ Hamler. I mean, I've come on here countless times talking about how much I love KJ Hamler and his training camp a year ago and how big of a season I thought he was going to have. So I hope it happens. The Broncos really need that speed guy that KJ Hamler is. Every year he's been hurt. The Broncos have been looking for a speed guy, and he's supposed to fill that niche so perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope he comes in and is that guy. I really do. For Jerry Jeudy, I think that he has to produce this year, pretty much. I think you guys laid out all the reasons why.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Fully agree.
I have a lot of high hopes. I know I when you say that, it honestly makes a lot of sense that you're probably going to be looking to the season afterwards. But if it ends up being this season, I think that proves the point that it was such a big storyline for the both of them. And then individually, I think with that, we can probably wrap up with that time of the day. It's
Joey's question of the day.
we don't have any guest stars today. I don't think it looks like they're all busy. So hit us with it.
So I got this question from an article from Predominantly Orange, so shout out to them.
Why you sound so sad?
Which predominantly orange author?
Travis Wakeman.
Travis Wegman. Shout out you.
Shout out Travis.
So
This one's out
my
to the
question-
Wag dog.
My question is, what was the first year the Broncos went to the playoffs?
The very first year?
Yeah, and keep in mind they started it, I think, in 1960.
1960. Yep. Oh man, they were really bad for that first decade, but I think they made it once in the 60s.
Just the name and put a date out there.
No, I know. I'm thinking. I think
Yeah.
I have the year. Bree, are you ready? Fuck you. 66.
77.
Bree won.
Oh wait, yeah. Wait, the first year
1977.
didn't the first year they make the playoffs? They made it all the way to the Super Bowl. Now I'm remembering.
They went 12-2 that season, and they didn't make the playoffs for their first 17 seasons as a franchise.
I'm really
And-
proud of that I knew that.
In 1977, did they make the Super Bowl that year?
I'm not sure.
I don't.
I'm
It
looking
would
up
have
now.
been a heartbreaking loss. So
Yeah,
yeah.
no,
Actually,
to the
we're
Dallas
Stock
Cowboys.
Broncos.
Also, I dropped the stream off my computer, so it's all on you, Zach.
Okay, well, I'm doing research. Everyone, buy me time. They won the divisional playoffs.
How about them Broncos?
Did
Let's
they make the
talk
Super Bowl this
Broncos.
year? Yeah, we're talking about did the 1977 Broncos make the Super Bowl?
Neither
They
of these
did.
guys were
Yeah,
even a
the
thought.
very first year the Broncos made the
49ers?
playoffs,
Who
they
were
made
they
it all the way to
playing?
the Super Bowl. The Cowboys, the Doomsday Cowboys with Craig Morton, who we were talking about before the show. Eminem Connection went all the way to the Super Bowl.
Full circle.
And then got smacked by the Cowboys.
Yeah.
That's what we do here. What a fantastic episode. I can't thank you enough for joining us for another tremendous week here from Mile High Sports. Yeah, I think I would implore you to follow us on Twitter at the LTB Podcast, Bree Maestis 303, Zach_Seegers, JR Drafts. Guys, where can everybody find your work?
My tweets will be at JR Drafts, as Bree mentioned. My writing will be at Mile High Sports.
Yeah, find my writing over Mile High Sports Twitter at Zach_Seegers. But really, what I want to shout out is please do the likes, do the 5 stars, do the telling a friend, share the podcast with in like a Denver Broncos group on Facebook. Get some toxic people
You know
in the
what
chat.
you should do
Just
is
spread the word. That really helps us. Or even rating us if you don't know anyone to talk to. Just give us a thumbs up, and that does the job. It really is the biggest difference maker for us. We're very grateful for it, and it takes like 3 seconds of your time.
Zach's like, if you don't know anybody, that's fine. I want you to reach out to people you haven't talked to in years. I want you to text them the link to our podcast. No direction, no further communication, just the link and see if they click on it.
But if you are sad and lonely, no judgment.
Fine.
Just hey, do a like, do a 5 stars. That's you're still doing good. We'll be your friends.
Yeah, you can hang out with the Let's Talk Broncos crew. That took a weird turn. On that note, let's go Broncos and let's ride.
Let's ride.
Let's ride.